get on, I lose a guest. Yes.
So much for tech, huh?
Yes, it's shocking. Right? Okay. So anyway, good evening to all of you. I'm Serene. Welcome to this another episode of the Serene View. And as always, we are talking about constructive argument this evening. And today I have with me two gentlemen whom I dearly love. Yes, don't tell my husband, but yes, it's true. And they're the guys with me on the tech team for the last 2 years. First of all, I'm going to introduce Joe. Joe is a retired supermodel who is a producer extraordinaire. You know, he is the man to make you look and sound good under any circumstances.
Like I won't say under any circumstances. I think the complication is making the circumstances okay so that you do look good. By the way, I want to thank you on that introduction because when you asked me about feedback on the video, the part where I said forcibly retired male model, that was actually a joke which I didn't think was going to make it into the actual edit, but there you go. I also love the fact that on the way in I get to do a somersault, so I think I'll do a few more somersaults as well. Try to make that happen again. Whoa!
Yes, but I mean it's true, right? I mean that's what you wanted to be, and that's what you are. No retired male model. Yes. So okay. Joe, come introduce yourself.
Forcibly retired. I'm Joe Augustin. Been on radio for about 30 years. I think I kind of misestimate that. I think it's a bit under that, but generally in the the media or mainstream media space for a while, and then I just fell off because I apparently don't get along well with management. Right now what I do is I do presentation coaching. So I work with a lot of high-end clients who want to improve how they communicate. So that's what I'm going to be spending a lot of my time doing. And the part about being a producer of webinars is that I also get clients who ask me to make sure that they come across well when we do these online things. And I try to stretch their dollars as far as possible. You can do a multi-camera, multi-location sort of webinar for $20,000. And then you can come to me and actually save enough to put a deposit down on your child going to school instead. So it's up to you really, right? But I try to stretch dollars and stretch equipment. So one of the things I like to do is take old tech and make it work.
Yes, so thank you very much, Joe. So this is what's happening right now. StreamYard tells me that LinkedIn works perfectly, and I go on LinkedIn and it says broadcast is not started yet. So I'm not sure actually whether we are on LinkedIn or not.
Wonderful tech.
Anyway, yes, wonderful tech. We love it. The tech will definitely work well today for us.
Are you saying no one's listening to us right now?
Yes, no one's listening to us. We could say anything we wanted. Like, what do you want to say, Joe, when no one's listening to you?
I was gonna say no one listening to us is like marriage. So,
yes. All right. So
there's a truth bomb for you.
Okay, we're gonna go on because I actually agree. So we're gonna go on to the one person who doesn't agree. So Sean. Okay, what? Sean is our tech lead. He's the co-founder of two companies. I just only found that out today. And also that he is, another retired male model, around the world. So yes, please go ahead.
Hi, Sean here. As Serene mentioned, I work together with her and Joe to organize, 3 global conventions. My interest in tech actually started because I was producing a talk show. We used to go live every Sunday, and I tried to look better, sound better, so the audience would not be distracted by poor audio or lousy video. Since then, we've gone on to first season is over, and now in the second season, we are doing something slightly different, where I partner up with a psychologist and a meditation teacher, and we discuss various emotions on a podcast that's happening every 2 weeks on a Sunday. It's happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and nice to see both of you again.
Yeah, this is terrible that we're seeing each other more online than we are actually in real life, right? It's like
we're the tech team, was expected. And anyway, if any of you are actually seeing any of this on LinkedIn, drop me a message LinkedIn is working. Because apparently LinkedIn is not working for me, but If any of you are actually seeing this on LinkedIn, like drop me in the comments to tell me that it's working. I hope so, because that's what StreamYard says. Okay,
But
so
aren't you? Doesn't it also mean that if you're on StreamYard, it should be going out on Facebook as well, and if the comments come in from there, won't they show up here as well?
yes, they would. So, I mean,
Okay.
obviously, if you are not on LinkedIn, you are on Facebook and you are on YouTube, you're also free to comment, okay? And also free to disagree with us, and especially free to comment on how good looking we are tonight. And
Oh.
yes, yes, correct, right, Joe? That's what we wanted. Okay, but anyway, today's topic is very simple, which is tic-tac-talk. What about tech ticks you off? And so, obviously, Joe is the one who is ticked off by tech. Sean is the one who dearly and greatly supports tech. And I'm just ticked off in general. Yeah, so that's no problem. Yes.
Ticked off in
Hi.
general.
Okay, so David says, yeah, LinkedIn is working. Yes, thank you, David. Thank you for telling me. Thank you. Okay,
Hi,
so
David.
hi. Okay, so guys, put it in the comments if you are ticked off by tech. Like, I mean, are you on the tick side or on the not side? Okay, so who wants to start first? Like, Joe, do you want to start with all the stuff we hate about tech?
Well, actually, there's a lot of stuff to hate about tech, but it has in the end to do with the human beings who are trying to make it work, right? So the I don't know if you're familiar with the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect is the inability of the person to assess how good they're doing or not doing because they're not qualified enough to know it, right? And for me, the problem is there's a lot of tech that is being released where you can do some wonderful things with it, but it's in the hands of people who don't know exactly how to do the wonderful things with it. So what they're trying to do is trying to make a piece of gear work in the way that they imagined it was going to work. So for me, for instance, the A10 Mini is the victim of this hideous Dunning-Kruger crime. A lot of people have been picking up the A10 Mini, and then what happens is they try and use it, and they go like, "Oh, this thing is just too hard to use. I can't make it work," and all that. And then you have all these A10 Minis back on sale, and people are going like, "I can't. It just doesn't work," right? And that's it's a miscall, because actually the equipment works fine, but you do need to know how to make it work fine, right? So it's like somebody who gets into a performance sports car on the passenger door side and says this thing is hard to drive. Go and learn how this stuff works, and be humble to learn how it doesn't work as well, because you'll be surprised once you figure it all out how well it can work. So that's what I'm really pissed off with in regards to tech. It's not so much the tech itself, but usually the operators who try to do things that it wasn't really designed for, and then they call it a failure.
Yeah, and they tend to jump into it without knowing what it is about. When they hear about it, it's fine, it's exciting. They just buy it first and then find out later. And remember, Joe, we got so many questions about the A10 Mini when it was first released.
Yeah, that's the one. That's why I said that one of the great examples, because it really was a revolutionary piece of equipment. It was going to give us a lot of ability to do a lot of things, right? And it's been a bit frustrating because like one of the most common problems, and this, okay, and sorry to kind of smirk along, maybe smirk about this, but how many people did we hear of who bought the A10 Mini, actually bought the A10 Mini, and then ask, okay, now how do I fit my webcam into it? Now,
and they realize a USB webcam can't fit in.
Yeah, which is, even as we speak, I know this is news to some people who go like, "What? You can't? Aren't all cameras the same?" And the thing is, it's not. And for tech folks, we can go ha ha ha, oh, funny. But it's just one of those things where, as an expectation of what things we're going to do or how they were going to work, it was just so far off the mark. That it was kind of doomed to fail. So, if you have someone who says, okay, I'm prepared to invest in doing better productions, and they spend, at the time about $400 on this piece of gear, and then they realize after they bought the piece of gear, they don't have any other gear to work with it to actually even have a camera put into it, then they're really in a difficult situation. So yeah, that's my kind of that's my tic tac.
No,
Yeah.
but I think actually that I don't quite agree. I actually kind of think that a lot of tech, right, I think it's set up without thinking about the user in the first place. At least that's what I think. I think a lot of tech is invented and created and set up by people who didn't actually like think through, what would somebody who isn't very tech savvy, who's approaching this thing from a very non-tech perspective be, about. I guess in that sense, it's a little bit like marriage, right? So a lot of marriage is gotten into by people who should really not be married, So we are all pretending
Where did that come from?
No, but seriously, it's like, when I get tech, also like for example, A10 mini or whatever it is tech that I got, and then sometimes I look at it and go like, why is it designed this way? Like, sometimes it was designed because it's convenient and it's easy for somebody who knows what's happening, but for somebody who is not, like, the fact that USB can go into it, for example, like, why is it not designed in a more user-friendly way?
Well, this thing about how it is designed, right? So, like for instance, since we talk about A10 Mini, it is designed by a company called Blackmagic, who produces really high-end industrial standard television switches, right? And what they did was they came up with a product which was for the consumer, and for them, it's like the most basic idea. If you're in television production, the most basic idea is you need to connect your camera to the interface in some way. That is the most basic idea. So the reason sometimes these things don't happen in design is because it's just one of those things where it just seems so obvious, right? Like it's never been actually put out in an instruction booklet for driving a car where they say step 1, open the door. Right? It's one of those things where if it seems so obvious to everybody else, then it won't be put aside in favor of that. So that's really why it happens. And the confluence is actually this thing about the imagination people have. They imagine that this thing can do that thing. So you'll find not only that the design or the writing of the manual sometimes is not very, very well done, but it also is where people have an expectation of what can be done that isn't even possible. They just imagine, like for the A10 Mini, people were imagining all kinds of high-end production TV stuff that you could do if you had a high-end production TV studio, but they only paid $350 for it. So a bit challenging, lah.
No, actually, I was just saying that by highlighting David's comment, that we're running into the same thing here. So we've all gone into this like, oh, what about tech ticks you off? And we haven't gone into any definitions yet. So we haven't yet said anything about what is tech, what is ticking off. And David has written to say, actually, I don't know what you mean by tick off. So yes, I think we are in the exact same situation. We've got all this tech, we don't know what it is. Okay, so let's start off with definitions. All right, so Sean, come, tell me, what to you is ticked off? Or even tech. Maybe we start with tech.
What's tech? Well, I think it depends on the perspective that you take. I believe what we're discussing today is investing in certain equipments to look better, to sound better, to gain a certain kind of effect that you want when you're doing an online presentation or you're doing an online talk show. And I think a lot of people, essentially what they want to do is to look good. There are a lot of things that go into it. And sometimes people think that all it takes is one equipment and that's going to change my life. But what really takes me off as in like, kind of irritates me a little bit, is that I think people don't get the full perspective of it. Because if you buy, for example, an A10 Mini, and all you have is a USB webcam. And by the way, there are a lot of good USB webcams. But if you buy an A10 Mini, you realize that you need a mirrorless or a DSLR. You need different cables, right? You need lighting. And slowly it becomes really, really expensive. And you realize that one piece of equipment really doesn't do a lot for you. It comes with an entire ecosystem of products. I think people misunderstand the costs involved when all they say, all I want to do is just to look better and sound better. There's a lot that goes into looking better and sounding better.
If you're wondering what I'm doing, guys, I'm trying to Google a picture of an A10 Mini so you have an idea what it is that we are talking about. Joe, do you have one sitting right next to you that you can just like show us? Okay, so David, for your benefit, tick off is just to get annoyed, irritated, frustrated, stressed out by technology. And I know we have gone on this A10 Mini bashing side road, but no, this is not about A10 Mini at all. Not at all. No. So today we're actually talking about all kinds of technology and talking about how really, technology that's supposed to make our lives better often make us actually more stressed out, more upset, more annoyed, more frustrated than, otherwise. And so I'm just wondering, David, whether do you have any favorite piece of technology that you particularly hate, like just today? So Joe, do you have any A10 Mini to show us? Do you actually have something? No.
Well, I was going to try and share a screen here, but I don't know whether I'm sharing the right screen or the whole screen or everything else here. I'm going to try to do.
I don't know. Just try it. I mean, this is it about tech, right? It's just going to not work, but it's fine. So today, so many things have not worked already. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. So just in case you see any porn, it's not me. It's just somebody else broke into my studio. Okay, so I'm sharing this with you here. This is what A10 Mini looks like, and it's essentially it's just a device that it helps you to plug in a number of video sources, which could be cameras or computers, and then the big buttons you see at the bottom there basically are one of the ways, simple way to interact with this device that helps you to switch between those sources. There's some flexibility about how you can build layers one on top of the other, which is another discussion. But this is that powerful piece of equipment. It is powerful. It can be something that you can actually use to create some wonderful effects, but most people don't have the ability to do it, to hack it, and try and make it work so that it's a fun ride. So yeah, this is the A10 Mini, the criminal of the hour. But we're not focusing really on this. We're talking about tech in general.
Yes.
Tech would include things like even the computers and networks, right? So things like Wi-Fi, things like what I've been really struggling with lately, having a very personal relationship with is mesh, right? So the idea of mesh is that you set up this one network and kind of like goes out and it turns your whole house into this one ubiquitous Wi-Fi network. And again, this is me going into it thinking, okay, I can try and buy a few components and try and build it up. And I thought, okay, what's better than having a network connected by wireless connections is to actually have a wired connection from one point to the other, and that's going to work better, right? So you have one node, you have a wired connection, and you have an extension node there, right? Turns out that's not how mesh works. Mesh wants to be wireless, so you actually do have to have a wireless connection. So now the problem that I thought I was solving is actually becoming a bit of a problem as well, because now I have to make sure that the first mesh network or first mesh node is able to communicate to the second node in such a way that it doesn't lose too much bandwidth, so that when it rebroadcasts, it is a meaningful rebroadcast of the Wi-Fi and not just a low bandwidth rebroadcast, which brings you back to step zero. Now, I may have lost most of the audience as I try and talk about that.
Yes, I think so. Maybe we should get off certain thing and then go on the tech channel. Like let's go to Reddit and forget about. No, just kidding. Okay, so David has like a pet grief now. So he says his daughter has reformatted her entire kit camera and crap for 2 hours because all the precious photos are gone. Yes, and actually, I agree with you, but I also have to say this, which is I have a 7-year-old son, and some days I swear he's better at tech than me. For some reason, it comes more intuitively to them. But I agree that actually I don't think it's easier. I think they should make the technology harder so that it won't be easy for her to format the camera. They should make it really, really hard. Like ask you 5 times, are you sure, double sure, and extra sure you want to format your camera before you get your parents' signature on it, right?
And in the meantime, piss off all your adult consumers.
No, but like, it's a kid's camera, right? So it should, like, if they're gonna reformat the whole camera, then I mean there should be something that goes that, show this to your mommy or daddy and get their approval before you tap yes or something like that. Yeah. That's what I think, actually, anyway. Yes. But I think that's the thing about tech, right? I mean, we often have this almost like what you say, Joe, imagination of how it's supposed to work. We have all this. I grew up on science fiction, on all this, like, I don't know, the Jetsons, or for example, the Jets, who, like, just sit there and all this technology is done and everything, right? For you, your hair is blown, your laundry is done and everything. And then you come to actual tech and you ask yourself, what is wrong with the world? And why must they make it so hard for us? Yes, so David says he agrees. Make it harder. Yes, David. Make it harder. How about for yourself? I mean, sorry, go on.
One of the great things about tech is most people think in terms of how it needs to be this really great new idea. And that's only one aspect of tech, because, like the Jetsons, if you talk about that as an example, a lot of the things that actually are on the Jetsons, they do exist. There are a lot of projects where they have robots that can serve you, they have cars that can fly, they have different things, tubes that can take you from one level to another using air currents and all these different things, right? But the problem is, can it be done reliably and safely? So technology is a double-edged sword. I mean, the new tech you can invest in. Like, for instance, I on Kickstarter I supported one of these manned chargers. So I don't want to get into too many details about that, but basically it was using graphene as the internal circuitry, which allowed it to carry a nice, like powerful charge, and it would be able to deliver this quickly and all that kind of stuff. And it arrived and it worked for 3 weeks, right? So this is the problem, right? So I had this piece of tech which was like really cool, really good, and I could power my computer from this thing, but it stopped working after 3 weeks. So it is, in terms of technology, in terms of the idea, in terms of a prototype, it sort of did the thing, but the one other part of tech that makes it reliable, that part of it is often left out. And I think people tend to forget that part of it as being very, very important. So we've all of us have had an experience with a platform. I don't have to talk about exactly which platform, but we've all had this experience with this platform, right? Which has some...
Yes, why we're all laughing is because we used this platform, and we were all really... It was interesting, right?
Let's just say it was an eye-opener.
Well, in terms of its feature set, it's a beautiful platform. There's so many things that it could do, but you had to do it this way, right? So that's the challenge. You can make it work, but as anybody who perhaps has gone on to, I don't know, I'm coming up with a complete kind of a
no. Let me come on with a less techy example. Wi-Fi, right? Like Wi-Fi has worked well in my house for years, and then COVID-19 hits, and like 3 times a week it decides not to work for one reason or another, right? I mean, if you have like the websites that tell you where Wi-Fi was going down around Singapore, there were like daily notifications, and I was like, I called up StarHub, I changed to Singtel, I called up Singtel, they all said the same thing. It works. It's working. Kind of. In some places. It is.
Yeah. I think one of those things that really bothers you is you're very reliant on the reliability of all this tech, right? I mean, if you invest in something, you need it to work, and you want it to work every single time. Even if it's, be it camera technology, be it your networks, be it your lighting. So sometimes I set up like the cameras and the lights, and you just don't want to move it anymore. But you can't really do that, right? Unless you have a fixed studio or a fixed avenue where you can stream from. But it's not always the case. Not everyone has that luxury, because it's like homes in Singapore are not exactly very, very big, right?
I was gonna like just butt in and say that, do you know that, guys, I look so much worse just on today's session. I mean, maybe it's because the people I'm working with today, but like every time I get on, and I don't change this setup. Those of you who have been on my show knows, I don't change this setup, but every time I look slightly different.
Lovely consistency there.
Yes, wonderful consistency, right? Same camera, same sound, same whatever, but I don't sound the same. I don't look the same on the camera. I don't know, man. And it's like, it's not even like, window lights or anything. I only have my room lights, which are exactly the same lights.
Yeah.
So sir.
You're suffering from the webcam. Basically, this is another pet peeve. So because I produce these things for so many people, right? And then they will decide on their own that we want to have the best this, that, or the other. So someone who's not qualified to decide what's the best this, that, or the other buys it on spec. So the ultimate combination you will see, and I'm sorry to hurt the feelings of anybody who's affected by this particular judgment, right? Is that they'll say like, oh, must buy the best quality Logitech camera, and then we're going to put that together with a Blue Yeti microphone, and then we're going to have some really nice, fantastic lights, and therefore everything should be wonderful. And what usually happens is it's not quite as wonderful because it's not the right combination of things, because a lot of the technology also isn't designed for that kind of work. Like for instance, the cameras that are designed to be webcam cameras, right? They don't actually work so well when you have good lighting, because the camera is always trying to balance for real world situations. And unfortunately, when you have good lighting, you've left real world situations, and your camera actually tries to fix something that isn't broken. So if you do like some artistic lighting, for instance, like now if I had this lighting and I kind of like have my face done a bit, just done a bit nicer in terms of lighting, right? The normal camera will actually try to fix it, and then it'll be off because it's just not designed for that. So knowing how technology interacts with everything makes it a difference. So when people are buying a camera, for instance, they really
can I interject here at this moment? If any of you see me looking less, not as nice as I normally do, it's nothing to do with my face. It's all the camera's fault. That's what Joey says, right? It's basically the camera, right, making me look terrible, right? So the reason why I look so terrible today is actually got nothing at all to do with my face. My face was equally good. Okay, sorry, Joe, go on. Just wanted to say that. Yes.
And possibly the use of makeup. I don't know. So that's the
no. I stopped using makeup exactly because of that. When I use makeup, the camera blanches my face out because it thinks that now I look too pinkish or too yellowish or whatever it is, and it blanches me out. And now I look like a ghost.
And suddenly you have to deal with a lot of manual settings.
Yes.
And most people have never adjusted a single manual setting before because their idea is I plug in a USB webcam and I'm supposed to look as good as it's supposed to be, right?
I have no problem with the manual setting, but I don't like to look like a ghost one moment and then like with makeup another moment and then without makeup another moment and then with makeup again. I know there's like those before and after shows, like, imagine the Hollywood star with and without makeup, but no, it's just not fun.
And I think one of these things that comes to mind is when people invest in equipment and they, without an understanding of what the equipment does or doesn't do, and they spend it, they just go, I want the best, right? Give me the best. And they spend a ton of money on it. One of the things that I kind of notice is that when people say, oh, I got a really good camera, they forget that a good camera and a good lens brings out the best and the worst of them, right? And suddenly your complexion, like every single detail, good and bad, shows, and it might not be what exactly is what you want exactly.
Oh yeah,
correct. Some people
every time I get onto a tech test with Serene, she almost always says, "You look very tired," and you look, So I have to work very hard to put energy across.
No, it's true because Joe has like the absolute best cameras of anybody you will ever find in a HDB block. But anyway, what happens then is that every single, wrinkle, wart, mole in his face shows, and every single wrinkle on his shirt shows. Right?
Not every software is like Zoom that gives you a nice smoothing of the face. And initially, when I started to use StreamYard to host my shows, I was wondering where the hell is that option, and I couldn't find it. Right, because that was last year. I don't even know if they have it now. And then I started to look for other software to try to give me that smoothing effect, and then I couldn't find that software. And it just pisses you off, right? Like, how come I look so different on Zoom versus on StreamYard?
It's got two siu, I think, something to the effect. I'm sorry, my Chinese is not.
I have no freaking idea.
It makes you look like, it makes you look like a supermodel, like a current one, not a retired supermodel. It makes you look like that.
And you can adjust the level so you can go from supermodel to just recently dyed makeup.
That's true. Okay, anyway, David was saying that what really annoys him is when the colleagues cannot get on Zoom. No sound, no image, cannot share screen, and so on and so forth. And can I add this one more thing to that, David, which is I've been on Zoom, like on multiple calls, and like on this call, it works perfectly well. And I get off this call, I go on to the next room, and voila, it doesn't work anymore. Nobody can hear me. Like, what happened in the last 10 seconds between this room and the next room? Doesn't work anymore. Yes. So, I mean, any comments on that? What do you think? You guys agree?
Don't you think that this brings up the topic of people who are unwilling to embark on the learning curve to pick up technology, even when it's becoming so commonplace? But they still have this idea that why do I need to learn this? The old way is better. And I think at some point people have to decide that I need to kind of move with the times a little bit and understand the basics, right? But I mean, I can understand also it's very frustrating because there is a learning curve to these things. And what seems basic to us right now was actually pretty new just a while ago, right? I think the difference is that some people have embarked on that challenge, and some people find it a bit more challenging to get started.
So I agree. I was going to say I totally agree, and actually I find it even doubly annoying when it's the young people who come and tell me that, I'm like, look, you young people are the reason why we have to keep updating our technology, and yet they come to us and go, why must we learn this new tech? And then so usually I share the story of my dad who does more Zoom than me and live stream and so on, and I'm like, look, the man is 72, he can do it, you can do it, but I also wanted to share with other people. Same thing just happened there. Do you find that guys who don't on their camera a little rude, or is it just me? Okay, let's talk about that. It's another pet peeve of ours. But anyway, those of you who are on YouTube, those of you who are on Facebook, please tell us what is it about technology that you hate the most and that annoys you the most. Okay, so Joe, you were going to say something. I interrupted you. Please, the stage is yours.
I really can't remember what I was going to say actually, but
it was about the learning curve to pick up technology.
So actually, it was just a little idea, which is a little not say pet peeve, but it's something that just causes me to bump a little bit. So it's a bit controversial. So I'll just anonymize myself in the meantime. So you see, when you can't take it seriously, is it? Okay, right. Okay. All right.
Yes, go on.
There's this idea about the learning curve, right? Everybody talks about learning curve, and then they usually say this idea. They say this idea. They say, it's a very steep learning curve, and they say like it's a bad thing because they get the impression that it's very hard to climb and what have you. Actually, a steep learning curve is good. That means what you're doing is as you learn, you're actually learning things very fast. That's why the curve is steep. So this is one of those things that I just thought I'd mention so that you don't say it wrongly the next time you use the idea of the learning curve, a very steep learning curve. Actually, that actually means you're learning a lot very fast. So
I think the concern is really in the effort, right? It takes to mount that steep curve. It's different amount of effort from having to mount a gradual slope. Correct. I mean, when I about 1 year plus, it's only just 1 year plus ago, 1.5 years ago, when I first learned that I have to conduct a program over Zoom or teach a class over Zoom. I knew nothing about lighting. I knew nothing about cameras. And the way I picked it up was, I finished work at about 7, 8 something. From 9 plus 10 until 3, 4 o'clock, I just go watch YouTube videos and really trying to understand what the different camera technologies, about what's lighting, what on earth is 3-point lighting. And yes, I did pick it up relatively fast, but that also means that there's a sacrifice, right? And I think not everyone is willing to go through that sacrifice. And I was also fortunate because I had people like yourself, Joe, and to ask about all this tech stuff. Not everyone has that privilege.
Okay. I mean, let's what I say. But I was gonna say I agree that so a steep learning curve basically also means that you put in a lot of effort to learn it. And I think for people who have no interest whatsoever, I think the three of us are maybe a little different in the sense that we actually like to learn some of these stuff. We are actually kind of interested in tech. But for people who have absolutely no interest whatsoever, that becomes a huge hurdle, right? Because, oh my goodness, put in so much effort, spend so much time to watch YouTube about stuff that I am not at all interested in.
I'm just curious. So like for you, right, Joe and Serene, what exactly interests you about tech?
I guess for me, it's not really tech that interests me. For me, it's getting it to do what I want it to do. So I am I'm a bit of a stubborn person. How can they say T-key, iron teeth? Which is I'm the kind of person who no, I must get it to work this way, the way that I want it to work. Like, certain platforms that we've had experience with, it's like, no, I refuse to allow the platform to do something that is not what I want. And stuff like that. So then I have to kind of learn it, because if I'm trying to force it to do something that's off label, then I have to be the one to figure out how to make it work that way. Joe, yours.
Well, I have the same kind of approach to things as well. I mean, I actually enjoy problem solving. So to me, a tech that just does it is kind of boring. It actually is not as interesting to me as something where I get a chance to tinker and put this together with that. I was just putting together a solution for a hybrid event, and one simple way to look at things is I'm just going to put all the video signals together and put it out together in the right mode, in the right angles, and it's going to look fine. But at the same time, my brain thinks about, okay, now what do I do with the audio side of things? How do I synchronize the audio part of it? How am I going to make that work? And to me, that's actually very exciting. It's very interesting to fix. So I like,
because I think, Joe, you're kind of masochistic. Are you? Things cannot be nice and smooth and easy because there's not enough, this is boring. There's not enough problems for me to solve. Is it is there a secret need to suffer?
I think the idea is to climb a mountain as you solve problems, right? I think you should get to a higher level as you kind of figure out stuff. I think if all you're doing is figuring out stuff and going level like this, then there's not much point to it. So what I'm always finding myself doing is, especially when I was working in broadcast, when I had an idea and go like, okay, I want to get this, I want to do something, and I figure out something that I want to create. A lot of people don't do the next step, which is to figure out how it can be done. In fact, most people, if you deal with tech people, most people spend a lot of time thinking about how it can't be done, and then they'll explain to you why it can't be done or it shouldn't be done, and all the different things. And the habit that I like to have for myself, and I would like to have around with the people around me, is have a habit of going like, okay, how do I make that happen? So that's actually I think it's fun, actually. I mean, if you have a team of people around you, right, who enjoy the idea of saying like, okay, you know what, give me something that can't be done so that we can try and work on it and make it happen, then it is very fulfilling,
Can I say this at this junction? This is the reason why I love working you guys that much. Like, I think we are, all three of us are kind of in that category of the, it cannot be done. Let's think about how it can be done. Yeah. But it really reminds me of I appreciate about you, Joe.
Yeah, it reminds me of how we actually tried so hard to come up with a solution for the convention, right? Professional Speakers Convention. It wasn't easy, especially last year when no one else did it before. No one else had any idea how it was supposed to be done, and somehow we did it. And I was thinking about your answers to what excites you about tech, and I kind of agree that even for myself, I enjoy a challenge, right? And one of the things that I always do is I watch videos and I get inspired by the look. of it. And I always ask myself, what can I do to make that happen? And then you slowly try a few things, try this equipment, try that equipment. And eventually you come up to something where you are satisfied with the effect, right? And if it still interests you, then you ask yourself, what's the next thing that you want to do to look better or to sound better? But the question I've always asked myself is, how do I achieve that? How did they achieve that? What do I need to achieve something like that? And as you try to delve deeper into the field, you kind of realize that just that frame that people see, a lot more goes into it than just one item or two items, right? Sometimes it's the correct items, but wrong placement, and that makes a huge difference. Yeah. But I enjoy the challenge tremendously.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I should remember that I'm hosting the show. Serene is
No. I want to highlight another thing I hate about tech, and this is David's comment, which that's why I was saving it, right? Because it's a whole other area that I hate, and which is that tech allows people to do very selfish, mean, and actually unconscionable things that they won't do in real life, right? So the thing about people offing their cameras is very simple. I mean, it's very simple. It's like this, right? I like to see you on camera, but I may not like you to see me. So I want you to keep the video on, and I want to off my video, right? So it's almost like a selfish thing, right? Because obviously, I get to enjoy my privacy and so on, but yet I get to see you, and then I get to feel like there's interaction with you, even though you don't get to feel like anything. And actually, I think it's not just limited to this camera thing. It's everywhere, right? People being able to say very vicious things on forums, in comments, on social media that they will probably never do in real life. Like, I have not remembered the last time somebody walked up to me and said, like, you're stupid, or, you suck, like complete strangers on the street. But that happens in comments all the time. What do you think?
Why do we assume that like what happens offline should be exactly similar to what happens online?
Namely,
right?
Because they are also humans. Obviously, now it's no longer true. Some of them may be AI, but I actually think the AI are more polite. So, yes, it's true. I think the AI are more polite, okay? It's the humans that are mean and dumb. But, the AI are smarter and more polite, okay? They're more intelligent. But what I wanted to say is that there's that shield, right? That because I don't see you, I don't interact with you, I can just get off whatever I want. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think you would blame tech for that. I wouldn't blame tech for that. I think there's this thing about how human beings behave and how you measure someone. It's what they do how they behave when they think no one's watching, right? And I think that's the issue. The technology is, if you like, it's in some way it's mobilizing or facilitating the full expression of somebody. So it may not be pretty as well. And it used to be what we were used to before was a bit of a gap between seeing something and making a comment about that. And in terms of being able to broadcast those comments, for instance, right, it used to be this thing where you had to go through a gatekeeper who would then be the editor of the newspaper, or maybe even the website in the early days before it would go out straight away. But nowadays it's all instantaneous. So there's a rush to try to get quickly to a witty comment or a quick reply or something like that as well. So, the thought that goes into, or the amount of time that consideration takes has been removed altogether. So, it used to be we would take a bit of time for something to like if you want to send a letter to the editor, for instance, it would take a day before that would be published. Right now, it's like, okay, straight away you get to put that information out there. So that's the way it works. So it's changed the medium. It changed the way we communicate. So tech is the enabler of that human trait. The human trait to want to just say. And that's unfortunately the byproduct of it. But I think we're going to get to a point as well. Like you talk about AIs being polite.
You think the AIs are going to be rude to us as well? I guess it makes sense, right? If they're training this AI on human behavior, by letting them deep learn or whatever it is, eventually they're just going to end up being as, and I'm not sure whether, training them on online is actually good training, because I think, as exactly what you say, people online tend to behave a little bit more egregiously.
Well, they've actually, I mean, you know the story of the Microsoft bot that they put online, and within one day it became racist, right? I mean, that was
Yeah.
it was terrible. It became this horrible machine, but it was also because it was being trained by people who purposely wanted to create that result, right? But you see, the way I see the future is this. We're going to get to a point where I can buy an AI that can represent me, and then you can have you can go shopping and you can find this AI, that AI, whatever it is, and you go like, okay, I like the way this AI thinks and this AI works. I'm going to buy this, and I'm gonna connect through an API. This is going to be my chat bot, and I might be able to use it through my phone as well, so that it could actually be my own personal assistant that's going to be able to handle a few conversations from me in a personality and a style that is mine. And it may not be obvious to someone who's not familiar with the idea that this is not going to be a real person. So I think we're going through the rough stage, right? When we talk about art, art is something which starts off ugly. Like you talk about sculpting, right? You look at the first few moments when someone is sculpting, that's not a pretty thing to look at all. But as you kind of chip away and you reveal the thing that you want to have in the end, it's going to get pretty. So, early video calls were terrible. Early portable digital assistants were terrible, but now we're at the point where we have all this broadcasting stuff in the hands of everybody. We have the mobile devices. We come to
Are we getting better online? I'm not actually sure. I mean, I think early internet is less vicious than now. I'm actually of the opinion that the internet is enabling people to be more racist, polarized, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's horrible. It has to go through a correction. As in, what's going to happen is it really, if it's going to be the free expression of ideas and the market of ideas, it's going to have to go all the way to the right before it comes back, right? So
no, but that's what I'm trying to say. It's not going to the right. It's not going to the left. It's actually splitting, right? So it's actually this effect of people who are right going more right, people who are left going more left. And I mean, I don't think the right is more terrible than the extreme left. I mean, they're equally terrible, right? But nobody is holding the center ground anymore. And I mean, a whole combination of different things, right? The fact that we all like to hear what we already agree with, and therefore, if social networks feed you that, they will be, making money, I mean, so on and so forth, right? But what I'm trying to say is I don't see the internet becoming better. I don't see it as correcting, because if this is our true nature, as what you have said, this is what we behave when nobody's looking at us, and this is who we truly are, then actually, maybe we are more real in that sense on the internet. We are not pretending to be civilized anymore,
Well, I think the thing that we are negating is this, the moratorium on killing your enemies is basically the problem in the world right now. Right? If you think about this, the situation right now, back in the old days, if you were behaving a little bit different out of the norm, right, then the more powerful group would basically find you to be repugnant or someone who couldn't, we couldn't keep you in our society, so we push you out there. And because of the way the world worked, then you might not survive and you might not procreate, and therefore your ideas as well as your gene pool would die off. Right now, we have this ability for anyone to have a right to have his or her own ideas, right? So I mean, and I'm not pushing for a situation where we do have any kind of culling, and we do have to have a like a power race. But that's the reality that we have right now. We have the ability for different groups of people to have different ideas. And unfortunately, underlying all of it is, fortunately or otherwise, right? We have this humanity that says, but you also have a right to exist. So that's the new thing. And I don't know whether we can say technology is really the reason that's happened. Connectivity is basically the result of all the technology, but it means that we can't, we don't have things happening in secret anymore. We don't have this thing where this bunch of people who are real idiots, we just say, you know what, enough. We're not gonna deal with you anymore, right?
But no, idiots can find other idiots in the world, right? I mean, around the world, even if they're only 0.1%, that's like a lot of people, right?
Yeah, but let me give you an idea. Let me give you what came to mind here as I was thinking about this. Right, the guy who basically wanted to not wear a mask recently. The whole that whole case. And pushing hard against the whole thing, and he has a right to his ideas, but he doesn't have the right to expect that this community is going to have to support him. We're like, yeah, you can have your ideas. You don't believe all that kind of stuff. That's fine. Just leave, right? Don't be part of this group. So I guess
No,
that's
but
how real world works different. I like
but it's
on
not
the
that I
internet, he will go
actually.
and form his own group.
No, but what I was going to say is that it's not just that, right? It's that the very marginalized and in some way maybe kind of more vicious people can now find a worldwide community, right? So the most egregious idea that comes to my mind is child pornography or child
Yep.
pedophilia, right? So
Yep.
previously, these are probably like one or two individuals in the whole community and they're isolated, right? But now they can get online and they can find a huge community of other people, and therefore that allows them to feed off of each other, to give each other better ideas, and in a way almost like refine their techniques. And
The opposite is also true, right?
yeah, but I
Where a
think
lot of good people find even more good people to great causes, and they are able to create a bigger difference in the world because you have more people coming together, and they have greater access to good ideas as well, right? So of course there is a good side, of course there is a bad side, but I mean it's one of those pros and cons kind of thing, right? And I like to think that there is a lot of good that can happen because it's enabled by technology. It connects people who would otherwise never have the chance to be connected.
okay. I mean, I don't know. Next week, I'm going to discuss with this guy and we are going to talk about is human nature good or evil, right? Are humans by nature kind or mean? So I'm on the mean side, of course. I think human nature is like utter crap. We should like switch to AI soon. But the guy believes that human nature is by nature kind and compassionate, right? So that's I think another argument for another day. But today I just kind of think that I think tech is an enabler. It's an enabler of the worst parts of human nature, and like you said, Sean, probably might be also an enabler of the best parts of human nature. But there are many things about it that I kind of feel, okay,
So you
I
would
never
rather not have
implement-
tech.
Huh?
So you would rather
I
not have
think,
tech.
the thing is this: where are we going to draw the tech, right? So certain tech I really want. So flushable toilets, definitely. Running water, for sure. Electricity, yes. So. No, a bit beyond that, internet, I'm not quite so sure anymore. But certain tech, like I am not giving up my flushable toilet. I am not giving that up. Like that is tech that absolutely must exist. So how far are we drawing the tech line? Yeah.
Well, I'm not prepared to give up all the stuff that makes my life comfortable. I mean, I like what I can do with my phone. I like what I can do with my computers. I mean, to me, I mean, and I want to be clear as I say this, it's nothing to do with child pornography. But I also like the ability to consume the content that I consume. I mean, there is a reality in the world where certain things are a little less publicly consumed. I mean, even just reading something. I mean, I'm not talking about, and again, it doesn't have to be pornography. I'm just talking about things like if you read something like really sappy, for instance, and you're surfing for some reason your predilection is to surf unicorn cartoons, right? For instance, you probably want to do that in a little bit of a private space as well, because there are going to be people who are going to judge you for that. So it's a facility. It allows certain things to happen. Like I think Sean was saying, like even to do great good as well. I mean, like you look at all these crowdsourcing sites and the great causes that get supported, right? Some of those things are just amazing, and I think without the aid of this technology, which it's the same technology that allows for trolls and cyberbullying and all that stuff, but it also at the same time empowers these great fundraisers to reach their targets in a year, or not a year, sorry, but like over just a few weeks, for instance. So I think that if there is a potential for anything, when you go like where there is a potential for great good, and at the same time there is a potential for bad. I think what we should do is we should pursue it and say that we should not sacrifice good just because there's a chance the bad's going to happen. I think what we need to do is think about it in terms of, okay, so now how do we sort the bad stuff out? So with Apple, for instance, and their recent update, which has been so controversial because it is it's a bid to cut down or to squash child pornography. People have just jumped to the conclusion that Apple therefore is looking at your stuff, and then it's figuring it's judging what you have to say, or what you have in your pictures and all that, and making a report or whatever it is. When they haven't found out how exactly Apple's done it. So Apple actually has gone ahead to use a privacy respecting technology to check against a repository of known offending images. That kind of a technology like that. But people have not realized that, it's not the same as Apple snooping into your stuff. So Apple's an example for me, as an example of this, where the internet has created the ability for this kind of activity, but at the same time, technology now takes a step forward and goes like, okay, I think I can solve this problem for you. The next part actually is trying to get people to understand it, because the backlash that Apple received for this is actually, I feel, is very unfair, because they worked very hard to create a solution that respected their own values of privacy, which the audience automatically said did not, even though they probably have no idea how it worked.
No, but I think we're going to get to David's comment in a while, but I would just want to say that it's also a trade-off, right? Like, I mean, I'm a parent. And if you ask me, right, would I mind getting my picture snooped into so that I can protect some other child out there from child pornography? It's a no-brainer. I mean, it's not as though I never watch porn or have no embarrassing, unicorn cartoons that I should be aware of. But on the other hand, would I be willing for some, person at Apple to know that I watch embarrassing unicorn cartoons so that some kid will be safe? Yes, I would take that choice. So I think there's also a lot of trade-offs that we are kind of making online. That I don't know. At the end of the day, it's really what your values are. Anyway, to get to David's comment, is just one of the best things that tech is to him, is that it enables him to learn things from experts that are impossible before. They can connect, learn from people all over the world, as long as there is an internet. And there's also the good and the bad side. Yes, I agree. I mean, is there anything that you guys particularly love about tech?
Well, it's enabled me to work with my partners in Vietnam.
Okay. And I think
you muted me.
Okay, so sorry. Say it again.
No, I heard it.
No. I unmuted myself in time. No, I mean, without tech, we would not be able to impact so many lives. I think because right now, with what we're doing at Shoppa, which is a retail startup in Vietnam, everything is enabled by tech. Without technology helping us to optimize logistics and operations and products, there's no way we can return those savings to the people that we serve, and there is no way that we can improve the lives of people through that medium, right? And it's all enabled by technology. It's how you use the technology to make life better for people. So I think it's awesome. I think it is. Without technology, there is way less that we can do. We just need to make sure we use it in the correct way.
Well, I think technology is this great big lever that takes what is a little bit of human effort and ingenuity and amplifies it many, many times over, right? I mean, maybe today this show isn't the time when something amazing and fantastic was said, but let's say and pretend in a moment one of us said something totally brilliant and totally amazing, and it went out and it was captured and someone saw it and someone spread it and someone shared it with somebody else. I mean, that's the kind of leverage that you have with the technology that we have nowadays. I mean, like in the old days, it was actually very hard for good ideas to spread because, first of all, you had to try and figure out how to craft this really good idea. Then you had to try and get this to a place where it would get broadcast or whatever it is. So when we look at history right now, I think what's great about this moment is all the good ideas and the bad ideas all are being captured really well right now, so that they have a chance to survive. So, and the real pity for me, actually, as I look back in the past, is that there were so many great ideas that just didn't get, captured. So many great stories, so many great inventions that didn't have enough of a chance because the idea wasn't shared. So, like I said, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because some of the worst ideas are also being shared. The earth is flat and all that kind of stuff. But
And one of the
Yes.
things I enjoy a lot, it's also because when you're able to, firstly, you have the courage, and if you dare to put your views out there, it creates bonds with people who you would otherwise not be able to reach, right? Because I give the example of the long form conversations that I have, these interviews that I have. One of the things that we spoke about are we call it pharmacy hard talk, right? All the things that people say about pharmacy. Oh, pharmacy is not respected. Pharmacies pay very low. And when I went on a show with two other distinguished pharmacists and we discussed these issues openly, we had people messaging us on the back end. It's not so much the front end, right? It's also on the back end, saying that, finally someone talks about it. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. That gives me some comfort. And I think it's a huge enabler to build bridges with people who you would otherwise, not have the opportunity to connect with. So I think it's awesome. Yeah.
We are coming to the top of the hour. I think we should end with a positive note. I'm not sure whether this is in keeping with the spirit of constructive argument, but or whether we should end with a contentious note. But
do we have any contention? I didn't feel like we really had any contention. We were all like,
so we never really fought. Next time, we must not get people on the show that like each other too much. We must only get people on the show who hate each other's guts, right? Yes. But I think for me, the thing about tech, and it's still true for me when I was a little girl and even now, is that when I look at tech, there's always that almost excitement of what could be. Obviously, now I am, in my late 40s, and so sometimes I always feel, okay, you'll be yet another dream bust, right? But yet, still, when I look at like spanking brand new tech, I still feel the excitement. Maybe something wonderful will come out this time around. Maybe, and to me, that is still the allure of tech. That there is some almost like kid with a shiny new toy attraction there, and there is some hope that maybe this time around we will get it right. Like sometimes when I look at the tech that is available, so like the kid was, I don't know how old he was, 15, 19, when he invented a way to take plastics out of the ocean. And I look at this kind of technology and I'm like, oh, there's a chance we could reverse some of this work, right?
Yeah. I think that we pay a pretty high price for tech. Okay, I mean, one of the ideas that a lot of the tech in the world runs on moving electrons around, and that's actually pretty expensive. And what we do is we found better ways and cheaper ways to do that. But in terms of like for me, what tech is costing me in terms of money, time, attention, because there's so much stuff that's happening because tech allows it that I lose the attention. I feel like I'm paying a very high price for the benefits that I'm getting, right? Having said that, though, I do feel that I'm willing to pay this price. I think for me, I think I've lived several lifetimes that my parents have lived in this shorter time that I've lived it in. So I don't know whether I'm being too greedy to say that I want to live till I am 120 and not suffer from dementia because I didn't sleep so well. That's a separate thing. But I mean, at the same time, we compacted so much more into this short time, right? So maybe it's a fair price.
Yeah, I tell my husband this, right? Like, on the day that I pass, I want my brain to be worth nothing, right? So that because it's been so used and so deteriorated that it's not worth. Right? I don't want to be the person who died with still have a multi-million-dollar pristine brain like new. Yeah. So that's kind of how I feel as well. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, any last comments? Okay, Joe. I know Sean wants to say something. Go, Sean.
No, I want to say that I actually see tech as an enabler. I very, very strongly believe that it can do incredible things if you know what you want out of tech. If it's brand new to you, there is a little bit of a curve to learn. And it can be very frustrating, just like learning any new skill, right? It can be very frustrating. I mean, there were so many times where I set up the equipment, it just doesn't work the way I want it to work. And sometimes it's just like 15 minutes before a show and you're sweating because the technology just won't show. The face suddenly looks a little bit darker, the lighting is off, and you're very reliant on that. Right? But once you figure it out, just like any new skill, once you get to a certain level, you find that you can do amazing things with it, right? And if for me, creating this, like, whatever you see here, for me, it was a challenge. And I'm very pleased to have been able to create this, considering 1 year ago, I did not know much. So I think there's lots of knowledge to available outside. You will have to spend a little bit of time to learn it. But once you know what you want out of it, there's a clearer goal and you won't just be chasing the next shiny thing.
Yeah. And I'm going to put Joe at this Joe's LinkedIn, Joe. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Into the comments. I'm going to put Joe's LinkedIn into the comments with the notation that if you have any issue with anything to do with tech, Joe is the one to look for. We are like pushing it all to you, right? You got any problems? Go and look for Joe.
Yeah. So what you need to do, people always come to me to make sure that everything works perfectly fine. So there's no issue and nothing can go wrong. So that's what I get well known for.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I mean, for anyone out there, Joe's amazing.
Yes, he is.
It's incredible. Yeah, if you ask him if you have any questions, go ahead.
Yeah,
it's
you have any questions, you have anything that you need to know, you can go and ask Joe. And if you ever feel very, very, very upset about technology and you don't know why you even bother with technology, you can talk to Sean. Yep. So Sean is our eternal optimist, right? Sean is the one person who will still convince you that tech is worth it at the end of the day.
So what do you bring to this, Serene? So you've covered me for if you have a problem.
No, I'm not doing any extra work, right? So do not contact Serene. Do not contact Serene with any of your problems. Contact Joe or contact.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
I think Serene's interest is in becoming the tech lead for the next convention.
No. Serene's interest is in arguing and fighting with the world. So if you need a good fight, come look for me. Yes. Okay. So thank you very much. I mean, I really appreciate Joe, Sean. I really appreciate you guys coming on today. And I really appreciate those of you who have participated, who have talked to us, David especially. And if you guys are still interested in talking to me next week, like I said, I have a guy who is coming on. His name is Gary Young, and he's going to talk to me about, is human nature kind or mean, good or evil? I think human nature is cruel, mean, and selfish. And he thinks humans are by nature kind, compassionate, and good. So let's see how that goes. Okay. All right. So have a good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you guys are. Bye-bye. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.